What's up, everybody in YouTube land? Welcome to J&T's Fresh Take, episode 14. T, how you doing, man?
Hey there, Poops. How you doing?
All right, today we're gonna do a little discussion and give our take on Blaxploitation, Hollyweird, and comics. And the question is, do they mix and can they thrive in today's PC world? Now, the reason why this is being brought up is because if you don't know, Marvel is their Netflix show has been ramping up for Luke Cage because actually started shooting this month, actually in Harlem. So it started shooting, and a lot of people don't know, like, a lot of Luke Cage's main adversaries were basically from the 70s. I mean, they had full-on 70s names: Black Mariah, Diamondback, Cornell Cottonmouth, who looked like a pimp, Broke Pimp at that.
Broke Dolomite.
Yeah, actually, that's true, because if you go to Marvel.com and look up the character Cornell Cottonmouth, there's a picture of him where they drew him with a green polyester suit, one of them Prince ruffle shirts, yellow, and he had a green hat with a long feather in it. I shit you not, people. I'm not lying. I'm telling you the truth.
Man.
So that's where this take is coming from. And we'll get into Luke Cage a little bit later after we talk about this, but that's one of the things that we want to talk about, because back then, like, the main draw of Luke Cage was it basically fed on the whole Blaxploitation movie movement, I guess you could say. It kind of fed into that,
right?
So a little bit about Blaxploitation. Dang, man, I don't even know how to start.
You want to hand it to me? I can.
Yeah.
Background on it. So yeah, basically, I guess we can start it with cinema as far as that goes. In the 50s, you had a certain kind of classic Hollywood style, and then the 60s came, and you had all these directors that were coming out and kind of wanting to break away from that and do all these new and crazy things. Like, you had stuff like Easy Rider coming out. That was a huge movie back then. It was kind of like the anti-hero movement started to happen. And alongside that movement of the 60s kind of filmmakers, kind of the more edgy stuff and less, glossy Hollywood stuff, you had the black film movement. And a lot of black filmmakers, at that time didn't have a lot of access, and it's kind of that way still, but they didn't have a lot of access in Hollywood because there are a lot of barriers as far as like being able to go to a production house and, rent the equipment and just being able to use the equipment. And there was just a lot of barriers for young black filmmakers. And filmmakers is expensive. So, they had that whole aspect. And so you also, obviously, after civil rights movement, you had black people wanting to do more, wanting to break out and do more things and be heard. And that's when this, the 70s hit. And it was kind of basically a black power movement you had going on with black men feeling more empowered, wanting to be more, wanting to have better roles in Hollywood instead of just being butlers and, gardeners and, people serving, the white folks, if you will. And so they had this, this whole movement where they wanted to be powerful characters. And for black people at that time, and especially in the hood growing up, a lot of the heroes were, sadly, pimps and drug dealers and, stuff like that. And so that's why a lot of the movies had a lot to do with that in the beginning. So that's when you got basically the Blaxploitation movement, where they were bucking a lot of the trends, having to cut corners because they couldn't afford to make movies the same way as Hollywood did, and it just kind of created this organic movement. So.
Yeah, and it's important to note that a lot of the Blaxploitation movies, and if you are a fan of film, you kind of know, you should have heard at least some of the more famous Blaxploitation movies like Shaft, Foxy Brown, Cleopatra Jones. Those are like the famous ones, the famous or more I don't want to say well, it is more mainstream known, I guess you could say. Blaxploitation movies, especially anything with Pam Grier in it from from the 70s, is pretty much, you know, that's pretty much the calling card, I guess you could say, of Blaxploitation. But a lot of it, like you said, a lot of the characters in there are, you know, for lack of a better word, they're just badass.
Right.
Basically. I mean, they're action heroes. They're, you know,
right.
They're fighting the man.
Exactly. It's always, you know, them against the man. And, you know, I mean, you got to understand, you, like I said, about how Black people were portrayed in movies up until that point. This was just a kind of, you know, thumbing of their noses at that and wanting to, so no, we're running this, you know. Mm-hmm. And you, like I said, you had that whole movement in the 70s with the Black Power. Black people were, you know, being more natural, wearing their hair more natural, developing their own flavor, their own style. And, you know, Hollywood took notice of that because money. Plain and simply, people were paying attention to that movement. You had, it was basically kind of the beginning of, as far as like culturally and film wise and styles, when white America started paying attention and wanting to be a part of Black culture. That was kind of the beginning of that. And then it kind of obviously went on with like hip hop music and all that. But that was kind of the beginning of where, outside of, you know, the Elvises of the world copying the music, outside of that, I just like culturally wise and, you know, I'm Black and I'm proud, you know, James Brown, he started that, that was a part of that movement, that feeling of, no, we are beautiful too. You know, we matter too. And, people like confidence. and so that's why a lot of people latched on to that movement. So,
and plus everybody was rocking the afro. I mean,
yeah, the afro,
animals having afros.
That natural, that's what I was talking about with the natural hair. The afro was a thing. People weren't, you know, trying to cut their hair and be all kind of calm and that nice little clean cut boy look. They were growing their stuff out and the bell bottoms and the loud shirts and,
and the
just being free. Platform shoes. Yeah, so
now once again, now this is that's the basic Blaxploitation Hollywood side of it. Now the comic book side of it is after the Civil Rights Act got passed, you know, back in the late 60s, early 70s, that's when a lot of comic books, Marvel, DC, pretty much opened the floodgates on characters. Well, a lot of the Black characters were parts of teams, basically. Luke Cage, though, the hero for hire, was basically I don't want to say he was the first. I think he was the first one to have his own book. I'm not 100% sure.
That's right. I think that's right.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty positive he was the first one to have his own book. Now, before you start saying, well, what about John Stewart Green Lantern? He was part of the Green Lantern books.
Right.
That's where he came in. Storm was a part of the X-Men. That was part of, you know, they didn't have their own books. I think Cage was the first one to have his very own book. Now, with Luke Cage, he was more of like a cross between Fred Williamson and Jim Brown from
yeah.
He really was. I mean, he had and like I said, most of his bad guys were drug dealers, you know, crooked politicians and stuff like that, basically in and around Harlem.
Yeah, I just want to say, because this is pretty relevant to what we're talking about. Who's Mr. Cameo in Marvel movies? The guy in Marvel. Yeah, I'm sorry?
Stan Lee?
Yeah, Stan Lee. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. But yeah, Stan Lee. It's like he wanted to do a lot of that stuff before, social commentary and all that stuff in his comic books. And, you know, the publishers just wouldn't have it. So that's why you got stuff like X-Men, where they hid the social commentary behind calling them mutants. Like, that's, you know, because if you look at mutants, they are always kind of a, you know, they're a minority, no doubt. And, you know, they have all these, you know, things they deal with that, you know, with society and whatnot. And that was Stan Lee's way of doing social commentary without pissing off the publishers. So once that Black Power movement hit, Marvel, I'm sure, was happy they can actually go in and do the stuff they always wanted to do in the beginning, you know, DC as well, to some extent. So that also plays into the empowerment of the black character in the 70s in comic books. So,
and it's also important to note that the way they've always portrayed, the character of Luke Cage is like he always tells it like it is, to the point where the other characters in the Marvel universe respect him to a ridiculous degree.
Yeah,
like he's pretty much well respected among every hero and villain in the Marvel universe. Like you don't mess with Cage,
right?
He will come after you. Because that's, like I said, he's a mix. If you've ever seen like any of the Fred Williamson, Jim Brown, Blaxploitation movies, he's a mix between both of the characters that they played.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was straight up, he's a good dude. He'll do for anybody, but if you cross him, you pretty much gonna get your ass whooped.
Yeah, he's intelligent, highly intelligent dude.
Yeah,
badass. He was a straightforward guy, but like you said, you cross him.
Yeah, that was just it. For you and anybody in his path.
Right.
So now let's get to the part of, can it mix? Can they thrive in today's PC world? There was a movie back in 2009 came out called Black Dynamite. Black Dynamite,
greatness.
If you haven't watched it, it is awesome.
Yeah.
But it takes the things that you love about Blaxploitation movies, and it opens your eyes, because after that movie, I had to go back and watch some of those ones that I liked so much, and I saw everything they were making fun of. Everything. Like crew members walking through the shot. The microphone. Hitting the actors in the head.
Those quick zooms and pans and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that never really worked out.
Some of the actors actually saying stuff in the line that they weren't supposed to say. And you watch it and you're like, okay, I cannot believe this. But you go back and watch a real Blaxploitation movie like Blackula, and you like, dude, this is happening.
Right.
This ain't them like. It's done in a comedic manner, but it did happen. So and also and this happened to an even lesser extent. I was watching because if you guys watch Conan O'Brien, one of his writers on there, I forgot his name. It's a black comedian. I forgot his name, but he had a skit on there where he was basically parodying Blaxploitation with the afros, the bell bottoms, all that, talking about Black Power, all of that stuff. Well, going through and reading some of the comments, which I should have never did, people were like, this is offensive to me. I don't understand why people think this is funny. Well, it's obvious you don't understand what Blaxploitation is.
Right. Yeah.
That's why you couldn't get the joke. And that's why in today's PC world, politically correct world, it wouldn't work. You can't do it for two reasons. One, people get offended at anything.
Yeah.
You say good morning, they offended.
People just won't get it. I mean, that's one of the reasons a lot of people, as much as a lot of us love Quentin Tarantino, a lot of people don't like him because they feel like he quote unquote exploits black people in movies. Yeah. Because he is hugely influenced by Blaxploitation film. And he takes, the thing about Quentin Tarantino is that even though, it could be parodied now and all that, Quentin Tarantino takes Blaxploitation seriously. He takes, but he doesn't like where a film like Black Dynamite, where it made fun of like I was saying, how they had to cut corners and, you had stuff where the, you had the production assistants in the shot.
Yeah, to shoot the shot anyway, because you only had that day to get it.
That's all they had. They had to like edit that in. It couldn't be a reshoot. So they had to roll with that. And that's the stuff you don't get from Quentin Tarantino movies. You get the, you get the powerful black characters and stuff, but he's not going to give you that stuff. And the thing about Quentin Tarantino films is that he's the only guy that can really pull that stuff off. I don't even think like a black director can pull off a Blaxploitation or a film, influenced by Blaxploitation today and have it not be comical and just look silly. But he just has that niche to where he knows how to make it work. And I mean, you had other movies that were influenced by Blaxploitation that had no black people in it at all. You had like the Charles Bronson movies. Those were
Yeah.
Blaxploitation, but with a white guy.
Yeah.
Those were with a little bit more money behind them than Blaxploitation films, but that stuff just won't work today because, like you said, we live in a PC world, and you can't have a guy going up against pimps and drug dealers because people will just, oh, that's all you think about black people, and people just have to understand that when the Blaxploitation stuff hit, like I said, those were the heroes, those were the big shots in the neighborhood, and so when Hollywood looked at that, they thought that that's all we wanted, and that's all we were about, kind of. And so if you were to do something like that today, people would be pissed.
They would be pissed.
Yeah.
They burn Hollywood to the ground.
Yeah. Just people are way too sensitive now.
Yeah.
I just look at like old TV shows, even like Sanford and Son and Jeffersons and the stuff they used to say on TV, and like would not fly today. And I think that's just so weird. You think we'd be getting more progressive, but we're getting more PC on television. In some ways we're getting more progressive. They're allowed to say certain words that you didn't say before, like curse words. But that's nothing. I mean, that's, people, as far as society goes, it's really PC about how you handle different cultures and races on television. And that's just sad.
Yeah. And let us not forget the language. You can't walk around calling people jive turkey, and you know what I'm saying,
and not burst out laughing like I just did.
Yeah, see, that's another. And it's kind of hard to have a conversation with people when you're trying to tell them these things. I'm like, look, I understand, but at the same time, this isn't gonna work with your average movie going audience nowadays, because now, once again, everybody's PC as hell, and two, they'd be like, why are they talking like that? Because nobody talks like that now.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna say, like, even if you were to like try to, what do you call it? Pay homage to the spirit of the, the Blaxploitation kind of foundation with the with the comic book, even if you were, and you wanted to bring it more modernized, like you couldn't have a show today like say have a main character that was like, what's up, dog, or that kind of, because that won't work either. Like there's no way.
And that was the 90s,
right? And that's and which is the 90s is kind of coming around again right now, which is kind of funny. But with the people wearing high top fades and lines all through their hair again, I think it's awesome. But
I wish clothes come back. I'm tired of these skinny jeans, but yeah,
seriously, where are the clothes? Bring those back. But I mean, you can't even like do that and pay homage to that stuff without it still being kind of comical, because kids today, they don't understand. They're not going to get that stuff. They're not going to understand where it comes from. So you got to cater to that PC kind of sugar-coated audience,
Basically. I mean, and the only reason why I really know about Blaxploitation, I had my godmother, she had a bunch of Kung Fu theater movies and Bruce Lee movies and Blaxploitation movies. That's how I got introduced to it. That's how I got introduced to like Cleopatra Jones and Foxy Brown Coffee, Dolomite movies, which I should have never watched.
P.D. Wheatstraw, Devil's Son-in-Law.
Yeah. If you want to know what bad is, I mean, watch Peter Wheatstraw, The Devil's Son-in-Law. Watch,
that thing there.
Watch Die Blackula Die.
Kung Fu Pimps, like
watch
with the slowest roundhouse kicks you've ever seen in your life.
Ever. And this is before slow motion.
Right. They weren't even trying to do it. That's all they had. Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of those situations where I would personally love it, but at the same time, I understand today's audience, and they're not gonna get that mess. Half of them don't even know what soul singing is. They don't know what.
No,
they have no clue. So
today's audience is very, very pop and kind of very. I hate to see. I don't want to use it as a derogatory term, but kind of superficial, like as far as culture goes. So they just will not. They're not going to get that stuff. They're just, and because Blaxploitation at the end of the day is a very niche. It's a very niche thing, and that's why when it's brought back in certain ways, like again with like Tarantino, people just equate that to his style, you know, because a
Not
lot of
knowing.
people just don't know about Blaxploitation that way. So, oh, that's Tarantino style right there. No,
no, it's really not.
It's not. I mean, he has his own little flavor to it, but it's mostly Blaxploitation stuff. And like I said, he brings the art out of it. And I think that's what makes him so good, is that he finds a way to bring the art out of Blaxploitation instead of just, you know, exploitative stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So
now there is one good thing about Blaxploitation movies, and this is all one good thing that all Blaxploitation movies had in common: them damn themes.
Them themes.
There were themes in Blaxploitation movies I won't play it at my funeral. That's how badass them themes. Because the themes would always be like the soundtrack, the musical soundtrack, and the themes would just be boss.
Yeah, that was really the beginning of themes. Like other than you know, James Bond or something.
Yeah.
You didn't really get theme music basically.
Yeah, James Bond did it, but really nobody else did. And then when the Blaxploitation movies came, they just had them, and they were just good. The villain had a theme. The hero had a theme. And usually the hero theme would just be if the villain and the hero in the same room, the hero theme started getting played.
Yeah. It's a hero take over in that.
Yeah, but there was always one downside to that, and that was if you ever listen to the main song of the series or the movie, it always told you the plot. This stuff I actually forget is that it'll tell you right there in the plot, or they'll tell you right there in the song what the plot is. Yeah.
Shaft.
Shaft. Cleopatra Jones.
Like it's all right there. And,
all in the song. Like, all you gotta do is listen to the song. You know what happened in the movie.
Oh man. And I think that's the thing about Shaft is that Shaft, while it was Blaxploitation, it was really good cinema because it was done by Gordon Parks, who was a great photographer at the time and still is, remembered as one. And he was an artist, so he took he was kind of the first Tarantino in that aspect, where he took the exploitative stuff and made it like art and made it beautiful. And that was kind of he was on a different level. The Shaft movies are on a different level than most Blaxploitation stuff.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Shaft the first one to actually get like mainstream notice? Yeah,
Shaft was like the first kind of mainstream. Again, because of Gordon Parks' name and who he was. But you know, the movie that started it all was the Mario Van Peebles movie. Oh my God, I can't think of the name of it right now. But that was kind of the beginning of Blaxploitation. Not Mario Van Peebles, Melvin Van Peebles, his son Mario. And it's funny because his son is actually in that movie. Mario Van Peebles was a kid in that movie. I cannot think of the name of it. And yeah, so that was the kind of the beginning of Blaxploitation. And like I said, Gordon Parks made it more art than the exploitative kind of typical stuff that you would get. Like just think of like a horror movie. Like, you know, you get the crappy kind of slasher, bloody stuff, and then you get like cinema greatness, like A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Even though it's a horror movie, it's just great art as well. It's great, beautifully shot, and you know, beautifully told story and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's the connection to that.
Now, if you liked our discussion of Blaxploitation, now we're going into Luke Cage.
Yeah, let's get it.
Now, Luke Cage is, like I said before, he's one of those Marvel heroes who should have been had his movie. Marvel, I still want my Heroes for Hire movie. But like I said, in the comics, he's widely known, recognized in the comics as being, you know, a stand-up guy that most of the heroes can trust, and most of the villains like, just don't cross him.
Right.
Yeah, just don't cross him. It's a headache to deal with. Just don't cross him. You know, because he is a headache. He has superhuman strength. He's invulnerable, and he has superhuman endurance and stamina. Basically means if you try to fight him, it's gonna take a while. You're gonna be there for a while.
Right.
If you do have the strength to fight him, you're gonna be there for a while.
Right.
because you can't stab them, you can't shoot them.
Oh, I have one more note on Blaxploitation. I think it's really relevant because we were saying how the transition doesn't work. When Blade started in the 70s as well.
Yes, that's true.
The Blade that we all know, the Wesley Snipes Blade and the black leather and the cool sword and all that, was not how it started.
Yeah.
Just like Luke Cage, Blade was a colorful ass, Blaxploitation character. He was in like purple pants and a yellow jacket, and he had like this colorful belt around his waist, and that he had stakes in. And he made a transition because they knew in 1998, is that when Blade came out, the movie?
Yeah, that's when Blade came out.
That kind of stuff was not going to work. It was not going to fly. So they had to transition and make him more modern. And they still paid homage to that Blaxploitation stuff because he is a badass character. He still feels like a Blaxploitation character in a sense. Blade did. Wesley Snipes is Blade. And so that's what they have to do. They have to do the same thing with Luke Cage because it's not going to work.
Yeah, because let me put it to you like this. Luke Cage wore a yellow silk shirt, blue pants with yellow jack boots, yellow King of England jack boots, pirate boots, a motorcycle belt, a motorcycle chain for a belt,
oh boy,
and a tiara.
The chain always got me.
and a tiara around the afro. Yes, it was a tiara. It was not a headband. It was an upside down tiara.
Upside down tiara. He's not kidding.
Google an image of Luke Cage from 1970s. Google it and say, put in Google Luke Cage Hero for Hire, and you tell me what the first picture come up, and you tell me what you see.
You might be offended.
Yeah. Now, his book went because like his book was doing well in like 71, 72. I think it started going down in 73, 74. So they teamed him up with Iron Fist. That's when they became the Power Man and Iron Fist, aka the Heroes for Hire. That book went on to 86, but then it got canceled because by that time most people didn't even get the Kung Fu exploitation, the Shaw Brothers stuff, or Blaxploitation because it had transitioned out of that time period. Yeah. So they weren't really relevant.
It was the Rambo era, So
now you got Arnold and Sly killing everybody,
right? So, with not any kicks at all.
Yeah, it's just guns and death. Exactly. So, so by that time they transitioned them to like parts in the Avengers, parts in like other groups, still in the Marvel universe, just not in their own books. And then like in 90, I want to say 91, 92. That's when Luke Cage came back. They had him for a 12-issue stint, and then he was gone again.
Yeah.
Until I want to say till around 2001 with the whole Alias Jessica Jones stuff, and Bendis brought him back for that. So then he became the leader of the New Avengers. You see Cap talking to him, all that good stuff. They had to modernize him. Is basically what I'm getting at, people. Right. You kind of have to. Because times do change. Yeah. So, and a lot of his villains, Cottonmouth, Black Mariah, Diamondback, what's the other guy named Shades, all these guys, they got some of them like Cottonmouth and Diamondback, while they didn't retain who they were part of like the Serpent Society. You can say they were part of Serpent Society under Viper. And they actually made them snakes, which was weird.
Strange. So very strange.
Yeah. So I mean, but they didn't retain who they were. So now that we got the Netflix show coming up, and that's supposedly, if the rumor is true, is going to be in April of next year, the Luke Cage one. We're getting information about who's starring in it. And right now, if I'm not mistaken, let me see if I can pull up Geek Tyrant. You can find all this stuff on geektyrant.com, by the way. They've been doing a lot of
really good website. You always put up a lot of links on Google Plus for us to check out. So
yeah, it has a lot of stuff on there because a good actor that I am actually a fan of is and I can't say this guy's name. He's gonna be playing Cottonmouth. His name is Meyer Shalala.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that guy. He was on House of Cards, The Hunger Games. He's been on a lot of stuff.
He's very recognizable.
See him.
Yeah. He's one of those guys that you just see him. Oh, that guy. I've seen him and stuff, So.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
But he
kind of looks, to me anyway, he kind of looks like a snake.
Kind of, because he has a bald head now. He shaved his head.
Yeah.
So he shaved his head and he's real thin. You're like, okay, dude. Yeah. So he's playing Cottonmouth. They still haven't gotten the Diamond back yet, and they did get an unknown to play Misty Knight. Misty Knight is going to be played by Simone Missick. And yeah, I'm in love.
I mean, she just had the name alone is just beautiful.
Yeah. And also one of my other favorite actresses of ever, Rosario Dawson. She's gonna be in this one too.
Rosario coming over from Daredevil.
Yeah. And sorry about that, but
me and Rosario go back to the mid-90s.
Yeah. And the thing is about Rosario Dawson, she's gonna probably be the Phil Coulson of their Netflix series. And what I mean by that is she's gonna be the one that connects everybody. All the series, she's gonna be the character that connects everybody. She'll
be the what's his name? Oh boy, I'm trying to think of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Coulson.
No. Well, yeah. Did you say Coulson already?
Yeah, I said Coulson.
Okay, I feel stupid now. All right. Yeah, she's gonna be the Coulson. I came up with that, not Jay.
Yeah. He came up with it. I stole it. Yeah. So. Yeah, but that's what she's gonna be. I think from what I read, there were like two or three episodes in Cage. So this is gonna be interesting. Now, the only thing about Misty Knight, I'm wondering if they're gonna put her bionic arm in she got from Tony. Now, this is what I've been saying about the Netflix series. Somebody needs to show up from the cinematic universe, because especially if this is the Defenders thing takes place in the middle of the Infinity War like it's supposed to.
Right.
So somebody needs to show up. I don't care if it's Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr. I don't want it to be Samuel L. Jackson, because we've seen him. We see him all the time.
Yeah, we don't love you, Sam, but we see somebody else in this.
Yeah, we want to see one of the heroes, one of the superheroes.
Right.
Sorry, I mean, hell, they can have Mark Ruffalo come in for a minute if they got.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo. That would be great. That would be out of left field.
Especially if they're going off, especially like the because remember in Incredible Hulk, they messed up Harlem.
Yeah.
So, hey, I mean, if it ain't nothing but like because what I'm suggesting is akin to nothing but a cameo.
Yeah.
I mean, a glorified cameo.
Yeah, he again, obviously he doesn't have to Hulk out.
No.
Be himself, and give a lot of street cred, if you will, to the series.
Yeah, especially. So, I mean, that's the only thing that I'm wanting, because like in the comic, Misty Knight loses her entire left arm, and Stark gives her a badass robotic arm with full capability, with full Iron Man capability. So
yeah,
in one arm. So
in one arm,
and not to mention she's actually a badass fighter too. So
yeah,
you really don't want to run up on her.
Yeah, and her, cybernetic arm.
Yeah. So,
from Stark Industries.
Yeah. So I'm wondering how they're gonna do that. I'm hoping that they do, even if they don't get Robert Downey Jr. to show up, maybe just to have him just to show Stark Industries and see the arm.
That's all you need. You just need to. If she could just be around in Stark Industries, because he's not sitting there running every little aspect.
No,
you can have lessers in Stark Industry, put that together, for the show, without having him in there. You could have Stark Industries definitely in the show. So,
and this is what she looks like. If you can see the screen, she looks like this is Simone Missick.
She's purty.
Yeah. So she's who's going to be playing Misty Knight. So it works for me. And I'm wondering I wonder if she's going to actually have the afro or not. That's going to be interesting to see if she's going to actually have that afro.
And they could do an homage to where she pulls off an afro wig or something. She's undercover, and then she pulls out of and pulls out into her hair. And then it makes a little joke, I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like that's the only thing, because I know there were some people who were like, yeah, they need to have the 7. I'm like, no, but if they do like homages to it, like you see the silk shirt,
right?
You see the motorcycle chain belt.
Yeah, you can have that stuff still, and just be, that would be a callback. To me, that would be good enough.
Yeah,
because if you go full on, you're running the risk. You're not running the risk. You go full on, you're gonna make it comical. It's gonna be comical without even trying to be. So
yeah, and then that's the thing. Like, yeah, Marvel does comedy in all their stuff, but the way they doing it, because the way they did it in the Daredevil series was actually good. It was a fine line, and they actually were able to pull it off every episode.
It was levity. It wasn't like punchlines.
Yeah,
all the time. It was good levity. It was good comical levity.
Yeah, it was good. It was organic. Actually, it felt organic.
Right.
Most of the comedy felt organic. So I mean, that's what you would want to do, especially since the Netflix stuff's supposed to be more, street level.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you would want. You wouldn't want to sit up there and have Luke Cage in that tiara and silk shirt. You wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want to see.
I wouldn't want to see that.
you wouldn't want to see Cottonmouth in a green polyester suit with a yellow Prince ruffle shirt, trying to act like he a hard ass. Come on, man.
Because again, this is a part of the Marvel. This is part of the MCU. So how do you meld that nonsense, with like Daredevil, the show?
Yeah,
not even the movies. Like with Daredevil.
You can't do that.
It's not gonna work. It's gonna be silly.
It's gonna look silly. It's gonna be silly.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, and I can't believe I forgot this, Alfre Woodard was cast, and she is gonna be playing like a version of Black Mariah, who was one of the main villains from the early Luke Cage stuff. Now, the funny thing about Black Mariah was in a comic, she was like a mafia queen, but her weird thing was like after she killed people, she take them from the funeral homes. I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. So in the rumor is in the show, she's gonna be like a corrupt politician, which would actually be cool because Cage can't touch her.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I actually like, because people used to get mad at me about the whole Superman thing, but I was like, I like Lex Luthor, and they were like, why? I'm like, because he's a bad guy, but Superman can't touch him.
Right. He's basically untouchable.
Yeah, because if he does, either way it looks, Superman's gonna look like the bad guy.
I mean, this is the guy who became president in series from the Superman comic book. So yeah, he's gonna be. He's not a Joker even. He's a character where he's basically untouchable. He's gonna have a hand in a lot of stuff that he doesn't do directly sometimes even. He's a politician. Basically he's kind of dirty, and he's always gonna be able to slide out of situations and make himself look good. And I like those kind of villains. I don't like the guys that just want to go toe to toe, all the time with the main hero. You need guys, politician type guys, and these to give it more relevance. I think. And on top of that is Alfre Woodard. Yeah, you can't go wrong when you add talent. Yeah. I don't know if she won an Oscar. I know she's nominated. She's been nominated a couple times. Yeah. So
she should have won.
She should have won.
We're not gonna get into that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people who are just nominated should have won. I think Bradley Cooper should have won by now. I think he's 4-time nomination. I mean, that's just ridiculous at that point. Give the guy his Oscar already. Give Leonardo his damn Oscar already. I mean, come on. It's always great to add talent to anything, especially to comic book stuff, because it gives it relevance. It gives it more groundedness. So. And
plus, she's a theater actress, and if you've seen any of her work, she's not about. Yeah, she brings it. And on top of that, she don't pick stupid crap, so it has to be good.
Right. Like I remember, like she always plays, for some reason. She's a character actress, so she always plays like these really small parts that are, to me, can be throwaway. You can throw anybody into that part, but I always remember her. She's like she's like one of the few actresses that are in tiny parts in a lot of movies that I always remember, like her being the mom in Love and Basketball.
Yeah,
like,
she's powerful.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. It's like, yeah. So she's always, like I said, talent is always good when you add talent to anything. So, and she's definitely talent. So.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I'm just like I'm glad that they got her, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing like, you know, what they do, you know, with the character, you know, of how they're gonna play her. Because like I said, the rumor is she's supposed to be playing a version of Black Mariah. So if she's a corrupt politician, I can see how that works out.
Right.
You know, because apparently they're not going to have Kingpin in that in Cage. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't see that happening. So
I want to see what they're going to do with Kingpin going forward. Like, how are they going to bring him back?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
Actually, he could show up in Cage if he's the one. Because remember, they never did get everybody that Hoffman, and this is gonna be a little bit of a spoiler alert if you haven't finished watching Daredevil, you should have by now.
You should have.
If Hoffman was giving up everybody he knew of, he didn't have everybody.
Right.
So that's a way they could probably bring that back if she was like working with, if she was one of them other people, one of other politicians that were working with Fisk. So that would actually be a way to tie it back in. But there's also one more person that needs to show up in this series. And I'm not talking about Jessica. I'm talking about Iron Fist.
Iron Fist, yeah.
I know they don't have him casted yet, and I understand like the rumor of what the rumor is. The rumor is they got like 6 drafts of what they want to do. The problem is Marvel doesn't know how they want to approach it. Now, they don't want to know if they want to approach the mystical part of it with the whole Kunlun stuff, or do they want to come from a more modernized approach? The problem is you kind of have to go mystical, in my opinion, because of the stuff with Madame Gao in Daredevil.
Right.
They kind of already kind of hinted at that a little bit. So they haven't you know went full on ahead with Iron Fist. We know he's supposed to be the last one, but the rumors of the problems that they're having, and maybe with the new changes that just happened at Marvel this week, maybe that can like open the door and they can go ahead with what they want to go ahead with. But he needs to show up in the Luke Cage series at least 2-3 episodes, because in every comic that you see Cage and Iron Fist in, whether it's New Avengers, The Avengers, Heroes for Hire, their own personal books, they always refer to each other as brother. They don't refer to each other as best friend. Luke Cage and Danny Rand refer to each other as brother, like that's my brother.
Right.
So he needs to show up at some point.
Definitely.
Yeah, especially if Cage's gonna have to fight Diamondback, Cottonmouth, and somebody else. He ain't fighting all them people by himself.
No.
And as much as I like Luke, he ain't finna fight Cottonmouth and Diamondback at the same time.
Right. I mean, if you just, again, you take Daredevil to show as a reference. It took him a whole season before he went up against Kingpin.
Yeah.
And that was just Kingpin one-on-one.
Yeah.
You had other people in. It's not really gonna work out too well, for him to go by himself. So, if you want to keep it, on that level of, gritty kind of realness, you have to have somebody else in there that's gonna help him out and be a part of it too. So.
At least in the vein, and they will need to in some way reference him in some way, like I got a partner or something like that,
right?
Because like I said, their books, because both of their books are about to get canceled, they put them in the same book, during the 70s, and that's when basically the Heroes for Hire were born. When they put both of them together, because their books were about to get canceled, and that was able to save their books and keep them going for another 11 years. Yeah. Because basically they were the first comic book lethal weapon. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
That's basically what
I never thought about that. Yeah.
That's where a lot of people like myself, that's where I first learned about Luke Cage, because I wasn't buying comics at that point, but because I didn't start buying my own comics till like 91, 92. and even then I was strictly X-Men. But I did have like an uncle who actually had comics, so I read some of the Luke Cage Heroes for Hire stuff, and I'm like, dude, this is actually pretty good. That's my first introduction to Cage, basically, and all of the all of the Blaxploitation and Kung Fu Theater stuff was actually, it rolled up nicely, and they did a good job with it. You know, so that's why I've always said I've always thought that a Heroes for Hire movie could work, just because you see stuff like the buddy cop movies, and you know they can work. You see stuff like Bad Boys and Lethal Weapon, and boom, that's Heroes for Hire.
Yep.
Without question, it's Heroes for Hire. It's just Heroes for Hire with superheroes. It's a buddy cop movie with superheroes in it, which means you have to have like random cars getting picked up. So let me ask you, T, should they? I know they want to be grounded in gritty realism, but Jessica Jones has superhuman strength, and she has the ability to fly.
Yeah.
Luke Cage has superhuman strength. He's invulnerable. You can't get to him. He's invulnerable. I need to see some superhero stuff. I know Daredevil didn't really have it, and they did a good job of like showing his powers in a different way, different light. But with Jessica Jones, do we need to start seeing like engine blocks getting ripped out of cars?
Oh man, that would be like, I think you have to kind of take the original Incredible Hulk, if you will, approach to the TV stuff and what they can do. Okay. Because to me, I feel like, again, if you're coming from the Daredevil world, I feel like you can't go like, you know, full on like
crazy yet.
Yeah, not yet. I think if she does, you know, one thing that's like crazy at the end of an episode or something, that's fine. But you can't have her just be this kind of, she can't fly. Like you can't do that. I don't think. Not yet.
Yeah. Okay. Like by the time Defenders roll around.
Right. You can hint at her, you know, being able to fly, and weird things happen to her where she's realizing that she can start, you know, on that path, if you will. But you don't want to. You got to ground, because you got to give them a weakness. You can't.
Okay, got to give them like
world. Yeah, they have to have a weakness. That, to me, that's the problem with like Superman movies, Superman video games, is that they're always really bad because Superman is pretty powerful, and if you start trying to like, oh, he has a heat vision gauge and he can only fly so long, or he has to fly through these rings to be able to stay up in the air, that's why, you know, it's terrible. Those games are terrible. And it's because they, you know, they're trying to deal with the fact that he has all these powers, but you want to kind of limit them to make the game more relevant. So I think that's what you have to do for the TV show. To make the TV show more grounded in reality, you have to limit them in some ways. And I think her being able to fly and, you know, being able, like you just said, rip engine blocks, that kind of stuff, save that for a little later. Slowly put that stuff in and limit it, because you can see the character in
oh my, yeah, I think your mic going in and out. Yeah, your mic is going in and out. Okay, well, while we taking care of that technical difficulty, the thing about how they can do that with Jessica Jones is basically because in the comics she has like an extreme case of PTSD. So in the Alias comic, and I'm not going to ruin it for anybody who's trying to go back and read that, because I actually had to go back and get the graphic novels myself because I was trying to familiarize myself with the material. She's something really bad happened while she was trying to be a superhero, and the PTSD actually affected her abilities, where her abilities didn't work. Well, they work, but they work at inopportune or opportune moments. Like her superhuman strength kicks in every now and then. Her flight happens every now and then in the series, but that you have to understand that it was her PTSD that was blocking that, basically. So toward the end of the book, and then when they transitioned in from that into the Pulse and then into the New Avengers comic, she gets all her powers back, basically. So she's, by the time New Avengers rolls around, she's fully flying, picking up cars, all that stuff. So I can see how they can do that for the Netflix show by letting her PTSD be the thing that like holds her abilities back to an extent. But I'm not gonna ruin it for anybody. But there's a reason why her abilities start kicking back up, and you'd have to read the comic. And I don't know if they're gonna go through with that, because from what I've read of the Alias comic, and they from what Marvel has said, was that they're taking their cues from the Alias comic for Jessica Jones. Well, Luke Cage ain't in that comic that much. I think he's only in like 3.5 issues, basically. I want to say it's 3.5 issues. And rumor is Mike Coulter is in like 8 to 10 episodes of the series. I'm like, okay, so they can't be taking all of their cues from Alias. So I'm wondering just exactly what they're going to be doing with that and how they're going to move that forward. So I'm wondering if Luke Cage's his show, is it going to be like a origin, or it has to be, I think it's going to have to be an origin, because the way the rumor is going is like basically he's already established. So if he's already established, then his show would have to be like kind of like an origin that happens before he meets Jessica Jones or whatever. So that's the way I'm looking at it. T, have you came back yet?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you were kind of going in and out for a second there. So,
technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Yeah. So you want to finish out your thought?
I forgot where I was actually. To tell you the truth,
Okay.
but I think you pretty much covered where I was going. So
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the only thing. That's the only problem. And I think that's the problem they're having with Iron Fist at this point. Is they don't know if they need to go full on. And I'm like, well, you kind of have to, because of how they set it up in the comic. And plus, nowadays you can actually get away with the mystical stuff, because we watch stuff like Game of Thrones and Vikings and Spartacus and stuff like that. So you can actually get away with that more crazy stuff in Kunlun. Just don't bring it all the way to, if you're going to try to do it in New York.
Yeah.
So you'd have to have like 2 main sets, in my opinion. You have to have your New York set. You have to have your Kunlun set. Your Kunlun set will be all the mystical dragons and all that stuff, just like they do in Thor, with Asgard being Asgard, the fantastical stuff, and New York and Earth being Earth.
Yeah.
So when Thor comes to Earth, it's not the same as him being in Asgard. You know, so that would probably be my approach to doing that. That's why I'm thinking, like with what happened at Marvel this week with the whole shifting in management, I guess you could say. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
They may be able to actually get a leg forward in that, and hopefully they can start working on that and narrow down what they want to do. Because, like I said, Iron Fist needs to show up in Cage at least for 2 or 3 episodes, at the very least.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to have him there.
Yeah, I mean, because my thinking is the first like 4 or 5 episodes of Cage needs to be an origin story, because don't nobody really know his origin, really. I mean, you can read it on Wikipedia and on Marvel.com, but you've never really seen his origin portrayed. So
right.
The first 4 or 5 episodes of his actually really does need to be like an origin of like what he was doing when he was younger, what happened to him, how he wound up in that experiment. Because the reason why he gets his power, and I'm going to spoil it for you because it's really not a spoiler, because they've been doing this forever. And it's one of those situations where they hinted at it in Marvel. He's one of those experiments that when people were trying to make a super soldier like Captain America.
Right.
And it went wrong. Somebody tried to sabotage it. It didn't work. It gave him powers, and that's how it goes, basically.
Yeah. You know, the typical theme you get in the comic book storylines and stuff. So
yeah. But I actually kind of like that, you know, people were still trying to make a super soldier, because that's how they made Wolverine. Canada was trying to make everybody was trying to make their own Captain America.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I love that because it's you have the unique guy, like the Wolverine or Captain America, and then you have these people trying to mimic that and never doing it quite right. And so something bad usually happens. So it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
And honestly, I think Wolverine caught the worst part of that deal.
Yeah.
His was way worse. But Cage's was kind of jacked up because he was basically getting the experiment, and dude tried to sabotage it and kill him.
Yeah.
It didn't work. So that's the little part that you would probably need to. It's always nice to have a good little kind of background. So that's how it happened in the comic. I don't know what they're gonna plan on doing in the series, but it needs to, in my opinion, it needs to be at least about 4 or 5 episodes. And then
I think. Well, I don't. Again, I kind of want them to do what Daredevil did, which is kind of play that stuff out in flashbacks, right? Okay. Just go full on into the show with him who he is, but delivers that stuff in flashback. I think that works really well because you can get the audience engaged right ahead of time without having to deal with this backstory stuff, but you can still show that Cage is dealing with stuff, kind of like what, again, to Blade, if you will. I thought the movie worked really well. I mean, yeah, right at the beginning, you see him, his mother, the birth, but that's it. That's all the backstory you get on him. And then when the movie starts, he's full on Blade. And then all that stuff that he's dealing with, you see in scenes of him just sitting and kind of contemplating and thinking about things, like his mom and what happened with that. And I think that's what you have to do with this. I think you have to give him those moments of reflection and give him that angst, from what happened before that we don't know about, that's going to play out in backstory. So
I agree with you, except for one thing. Like, the only difference is, like, even with Blade, people like kind of knew of him.
Yeah, he's more well known for sure.
And the thing with Daredevil is, we kind of, I can't believe I'm actually going to reference this. People kind of know of him from the 2003 stuff. Like, most people haven't really seen Luke Cage. That's why I'm saying at least one full-on episode.
Right. Well, I will say, you can, after a couple episodes, you can go full on. But I will say with Blade, though, I think, hindsight, I think a lot of people didn't know about Blade. They knew Wesley Snipes, though.
Yeah, that's true.
And he was a badass action hero. So a lot of people went and saw it just because of that, and then realized, oh, this is an awesome movie as well. And so a lot of people learned about Blade through the movie. A lot of people didn't know Blade was, a Marvel comic before the movie. So a
lot of people didn't know he showed up as Spider-Man.
Right. A lot of people had no idea. You would think, how would those worlds mix? They got them to mix in the comics. So yeah, you can still do it. I mean, you can definitely do a episode where it deals with the whole thing. I just think because of how we got Daredevil, the way it was delivered, I just think the short bursts of that stuff is the better way to go for a TV audience, especially.
Okay.
That's just my personal, there's no right or wrong. This is an opinion. So
yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, either way, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, either way, I'm looking forward to it. And plus, they got the showrunner is actually the showrunner of one of the showrunners of Ray Donovan in Southland, as well as he was I forgot what else he was on. What's the guy?
Ray Donovan, yeah.
Chio.
Another one of those guys. It isn't in a lot of stuff.
I'm trying to get the guy's name.
Yeah.
It's Chio. How do you say it? Chio Hodari.
Hodari.
Yeah. So he's actually not bad. So I like Ray Donovan. Ray Donovan was actually a good series if you have Stars, and I mean I think he's on Stars or Showtime. I can't remember which one.
I think it's Showtime. Yeah.
Ray Donovan is a good show. I mean it's a mob show, but it's a good show. So
it's a good show. Yeah, I've seen a few episodes. I'm gonna have to get into it.
Yeah, I mean I'm actually I enjoyed the first season a lot. So it's another one of those like 10 episode things. So it's easy to watch because it's like a summer show. So yeah, I enjoy that a lot, and he's one of the guys that runs it. So I'm actually really looking forward to Luke Cage, and like Marvel is going to drop that one in 2016, and going by their every 6 months rule, that would mean April.
Yeah.
Unless they move Daredevil season 2 to April, which I doubt they do that. I think Daredevil's probably going to be like the October one or whatever.
I just hope we don't get that saturation point. You know, we talked about it before.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Oversaturation. Yeah,
because I know why they're doing it like that, because they don't have an Iron Fist yet.
Right.
That's the main reason why we're getting Daredevil season 2 right now, is because they don't have an Iron Fist yet. So they want to keep the momentum going, and since Daredevil did so good, they just want to go in and get that one in.
Yeah.
And so, because like I said, the way the Defenders supposed to pan out is it's supposed to happen in between Infinity War 1 and Infinity War Part 2.
Uh-huh.
So my guess is whatever happens in Infinity War 1 is going to tie into Defenders, which is then going to tie in to Infinity. The end of Defenders is going to tie into Infinity War 2, because like they've been saying, it's all connected, which is very true. All of their stuff is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even Daredevil, the reason why you got a Daredevil was because of what happened in the first Avengers movie.
Yeah. And for me, that's my knock on the DC universe. They won't meld the two worlds together, television.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we don't
As a DC fanboy, I'm saying this.
And we went in on them for that too, because we got mad just like Stephen Amell got mad. So,
yeah.
that
missed opportunity.
So that's pretty much it for this fresh take. T, you got anything you want to pimp out?
No, I'm pumping out a couple of videos. Check out my latest one. Pretty controversial, I guess. But go check that out. And I got a couple of videos coming out. I'll put out probably sometime over the weekend. You know, we're going into Labor Day, so I'm kind of want to relax a little bit with the fam and all that stuff. But yeah, again, we had a great conversation. I love these conversations, man, because it feels like I'm talking to my cousin, and we definitely got to grow the audience here, because I think we have good chemistry on this stuff. So,
that is very true.
Yeah. So
me personally, I don't have much, but Gamers at Large is having a special episode Sunday at 8:00. Be there. We have a special guest showing up that's going to be talking to us in the gaming world. Also, we're going to be doing a J&T's Fresh Take Q&A. I know we had one planned for earlier in the summer. I'm kind of glad that one got pushed back, because we're going to do this one in October. So we're going to start promoting Fresh Take a lot. So questions out there, get them ready. I'll probably try to find a way to do this, but just keep your ears peeled. And for more details on how to get your questions in for the Fresh Take episode, once we get everything figured out, we will let you guys know. So just look for that sometime in October. All right. And we will catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.